I don't know. I think one of the things I talked to mom about in our my mom and I had our 25th or so anniversary, and reflecting back on the 20 something years, over 25 years we were together, and now having built quite a family of 5 kids, and by this time already we had grandkids and everything, right? So, kind of a legacy or whatever it is, you can reflect back. And I asked mom, I said, what would we have done differently? And money wasn't one of them. I mean, we wish we would have had, a better foundation for finance in a sense. But we also reflected back, we never wasted our money. It was on kids. Everything we did was for kids. It wasn't, we talked about it before. If you wanted a video game, we would buy it, or gaming systems and that kind of thing, right? But not like crazy. But the things that we did, it wasn't for me and mom buying stuff. We didn't have that. But it was, we spent a lot of money, or the right amount of money probably, on our kids and their activities and things. So that was important to us. But that was one thing I thought, well, I wish we could have done differently, but we didn't see a path to make that different. The other one was, your cat's adorable.
She's wanting attention. She's
I get it.
She's mad at me. Hey.
But the other thing that I thought was interesting, coming from me, that I thought education was important. I mean, more like it was a thing, it was a challenge, just worth doing. That most of my kids didn't take to education, meaning that it's like, I want to strive to go to a good college and that kind of thing. There was one exception. Danielle was one, your older sister. She was big about wanting to be able to go off to college to get the right grades and stuff. So she was very particular about things. Now she'll actually tell you now that she still had a party life, but she just stayed up late at night and do it. But the point was, she really did focus on that. The rest were like, nah. Especially your older brother, he threatened not to go to college just to piss us off. But the point was that it was never that big of a deal. And I don't want to say I was disappointed, I was surprised. And in retrospect, I think it didn't harm you guys, so it's okay. But it was just, that's when I thought maybe you guys would have been more focused on education.
I think education for education's sake is a difficult sell when it doesn't click. So, I mean, you remember me in high school, I wasn't exactly getting straight A's, wasn't exactly getting straight B's, right? Right, high school was something that I had.
We were thrilled with the straight C's if we can get them.
Yeah, exactly. And college happened because I didn't know what else to do, really. I was like, I got nothing else going on, I might as well go to college, it's what people want me to do. And sure enough, I had people accepted me, right? For one reason or another. Wasn't getting scholarships. I wasn't getting anything academically wise. And even when I was in my undergrad, the classes that I liked were the ones that pertinent to my major. Yeah. So, which I lucked out, by the way. A side note is, so many people switch majors so often. I'm really happy that I clicked with what I'm studying immediately. So I lucked out there. But my non-major classes were still those C's and occasional D here or there. But it wasn't until after I graduated that, it was like, okay, what do I want to do? I want to go work at cardiac rehab. I think that's the next step. The next step to do that is, okay, I need a master's degree. And when I went to go, before I even applied, I talked to the director of the program, who eventually just became my academic advisor. He had told me, I went to go ask what the requirements were. And he said, you have the right undergrad degree where you won't have to take too many other classes when you start the program. But he's like, look, I'll tell you right now, we're not going to accept you with these grades. And I was like, fair enough. Okay. So I had to take an extra semester of college and improve the grades of which needed to be improved, right? I needed to improve my English or rhetoric grades. It was specifically my anatomy and physiology grades that needed to go up. And so I did that. I did that first semester, and they went way up. I just kept talking with them more, took the GRE, and eventually got accepted. I don't know what percentage of that is me hopefully just kind of making my case in person with my advisor, and showing that this was something that I was looking to actually pursue versus the actual increase of the grades. I think it might be a little bit of both, because my GRE score was somewhere in the middle. Wasn't an impressive GRE score, but I have my own problems with the GRE. And when it came to my master's degree, I think I only got 1 B. Everything else was an A. So I think education is important. I think education can be a very helpful tool when the motivation is correct. And if the motivation is not there, it might serve as a detriment. So I think what it provides is overall good, right? The critical thinking you were talking about, it provides us this opportunity to have a degree, go use it somewhere else. However, if you're not geared toward it, it's not gonna look great. And I don't think it's the end all be all if you're not geared for education.
I suppose. I mean, I think we lived through it. It was okay. I was only surprised. I'm not disappointed, really, especially where all my kids are. I mean, they figured it out. But again, I think it's better to have a degree than not have a degree,
Sure.
right? This is not to suggest, like in your brother's case, he's your younger brother. He's in a particular case. He's working on another commitment that is frankly extraordinary and difficult. And he's doing it for a long time. So.
Yep.
You know, it's not like he's sitting around playing video games at home and not making something out of himself. He truly is making something out of himself. So we allow that, right? So
Right.
we account for that and we even support it. But I mean, financially and otherwise, right? We support it in fairness. But other than that, I think it's important to continue to focus education as being important to in your case your son and any of your kids in the future. Because again, it's better to have it than not to have it. We didn't say that we had to be the smartest. We didn't have to go to the best schools.
Sure.
I know a lot of people who went to best schools. I took the bar exam against people. I went to a mediocre law school, and I literally sat next to people I know that came from Stanford and Berkeley and other schools taking the test with me. The bar exam, and it's a 3-day exam. By the second or third day, they were gone. I was still there. They couldn't handle it. So to me, it's like, it doesn't have to be that. It's not about book knowledge. It's not about trivia. It's about the wisdom you pull out of the things. Applying the knowledge in a real world environment is what it's about. So if someone goes somewhere and they're getting A's and the test is geared on like a GRE maybe, or some other ones, it's not an LSAT as much, but it's geared upon your trivia knowledge. It's like, well, that's trivia. I mean, you can go in Jeopardy for that, awesome, but it doesn't apply in the real world. No one gives a crap about Jeopardy,
Right.
About the trivia or the knowledge. Lawyers will teach you this. Lawyers will not cite the laws all the time. That's what makes them look smart in front of people who are not. But we don't cite the law. We just wind our way through the logic, and know that we simply say there's case law or there's laws and regs that say this, and that's all you have to say. That's how you do it. Trivia is irrelevant. So, I think it's okay. The grade, same thing. I think there was I read somewhere or whatever it was, the story about Ronald Reagan, and I think he was entertaining Gorbachev or somebody, the General Secretary of the Soviet Union at the time. I think he was at the White House dinner, and I think they were talking about school, and Ronald Reagan, says, like him or not politically, is not the issue, but
Sure.
but he basically, he's in the White House and having dinner. He says, he told Gorbachev, he says, I was not really a good student. He says, I was basically a C student in high school and in college. He says, if I got A's, imagine how far I could have gone. And the point is, you can't go any further than he did. The grades don't matter. I mean, in your case, it does, because in some cases it does matter, because these, like you said, you had to redo some courses. And this goes precisely to the theme of what we're talking about, is your grades, your lower grades reduced or took away some options for you, which as a parent you don't want. This is why we don't know that the D that you're getting in English in your sophomore class is going to affect you or not. We don't know, but we can suspect that if you get a D in your sophomore, you're not going to get, while you're otherwise good for it, you're not going to get the accelerated course in junior year, and which will really then cause you to get into other. We don't know that, and so that's where the projection and the concerns come from. It all goes back to opening options. But for your case, it worked, and I give you credit for that. That was and the tenacity that you had, and the tenacity you do have when you have passion on what you do, and any of what you do is what gets you guys through, is what I've seen. So I appreciate that. I think it was even AJ, your brother, who suggested you take the vocation that you did, or the direction.
He did. He brought it up to me. And
genius.
I would like to push back a little bit though on the idea that you had said, the D in, you're worried about the D in the sophomore English taking away options, right? The option, but you could also see it as a way that the option was never taken away from you, right? I accepted the choice that I made in college of getting the low grade. I accepted that I didn't do well in these courses, and I made the decision to then do well in the courses, right? I don't know if it's necessarily that you need to make sure and enable your kids to have these choices because you think it's right, but more so enable their ability to identify the right choices when it suits them. Hold on. River?
Well, I'm sorry. When I say sophomore year, I meant high school.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. So, and in that case, you can't retake those courses later to get into a better class. So,
right. But
so
it's about understanding or, trusting the kids that you're raising to understand the choices that they're making, right? And it's not necessarily, I don't want you to do this. I want you to get good grades so you can get into a good school because that'll give you options. More so, I want you to understand that your poor performance here is going to have consequences somewhere in the future. You need to be ready to accept those, and you need to be creative enough to find out how to go through those. What you do here, I don't care about. I care about how you handle the consequences of this. It's similar. I mean, I think the outcomes are similar, but I think the way it's processed and handled is fundamentally different.
Well, that's precisely what we said back then. You may don't remember that. It's precisely what we would have said back then, right? And we don't know, again, the options of what college you could have gone to may have been affected as a result. And we don't know later. It's like, thank God we did that. Thank God you pushed us. Thank God, Dad, we talked about college in your case, right? If we didn't have those conversations, maybe you wouldn't have gone. I'm not saying we not, but in your case, you needed it for what you want to do.
Sure.
So you're not at 15, you are not mature enough. 15, you are not mature enough to accept the ramifications of a D just because in English. You're
Sure.
just not. And that in college, when you had your sophomore, junior years and you had those, that's your problem. From a parent's perspective, our job is to get you into college. If you want to screw it up, that's up to you, right? So we're not here to tell you what to do in college. By that time, you learn what you want to finish with it. We'll coach as much as we can. But in high school, you're just too dumb at 15 to understand. Dumb's the wrong word, but you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So when your son is 15, he says, Dad, I'm going to drop out of high school. It's like, I think you're going to, what did you say? I think you're going to adversely affect your options going forward, but I'll let you make those choices, decide and see and you can accept those consequences. I don't think that's the conversation. I think you're going to grab him by the collar and say, you're going to stay in this school because if I don't drag you here, your mother is, and you don't want your mother here. So my point is, it sounds easy to say, but the reality is in those moments, it's like you couldn't understand the ramifications of what you're doing. Admittedly, parents can't articulate well enough for the kid to understand. There's such a chasm between, at that age of understanding. You don't get it. We can't articulate it. Just do it. I'm the dad. I'm the mom. Whatever. That has to come into play. You just got to trust us. It is not easy, especially when you have kids who are raised we talked about this, independently and not afraid of us, right? We didn't want you to don't do things because it's, or just naturally it makes Dad happy, we'll do it. It's one of those things. I think I want to be independent. Okay, this is not the choice you should make. If you want to be independent, do something else. Get drunk and black out at 17, and we'll get you home. I'd rather you do that than ruin your high school career. So you have to measure what those are. But I understand in concept that's nice to think, but the reality is, by age of 13 into about 2021, the parents are absolutely clueless about life. And somehow, as AJ will tell you, the parents really educate them really fast because by the time you're 21, they've gotten very intelligent and they finally they've caught up to you. So that chasm of time, I look forward, the teen years are tough. And that's why. It's because we know it's important. We can articulate it 9 different ways in a single conversation. They're not listening to it because they don't really care about their D in English and the fact that it's going to get them in remedial English next year, which will mean that they won't have a college track or the opportunity for university because of that. And I randomly picked that, but I mean, that's actually not thinking about it. It's a very real situation that parents have struggled with. So anyway, that's our situation. But anyway, it's all good. I'm not, if you're asking what you guys have done that we're disappointed in, yes, we talked about, I'm not worried about the drugs as much as long as it's controlled and you don't do stupid stuff. We've had some scares, as you probably know.
Yep. That
I now would know, and it's like I didn't know what we could have done to avoid anything. We're just very, very fortunate, unlucky. This is how it works. We're not All good parents, excellent parents, when they have independent kids, are going to do something that gets them off the rail. And we have to grin and bear it as best we can, and just be lucky, to be honest. Okay. But there really isn't anything, I think, that we look at and say that's disappointing. But then again, you guys are good kids. I don't want to attribute it to we did everything right.
Sure.
I think we attribute it to you guys chose wisely on a lot of things. That even now, I will tell you, yes, we talk about smoking. I think I will flat out tell anyone that is absolutely stupid. I've had, a father who smoked all his life and died at a young age. I have a mother-in-law who died of lung cancer, and let's not even get started with me. I didn't even smoke when I had lung cancer 3 months ago, right? So, which means our family's susceptible to it. It absolutely makes no sense to me whatsoever, and I will die on that hill more than anything else. I mean, drugs as well, etc. But now, if there's an addiction, I understand there's other complications, but I'm saying that's the issue.
Sure, and I'm not saying it was my greatest achievement. I'm not saying me smoking cigarettes from the ages of 19 to 24 was the highlight of my early 20s. But I will also know that I have not once met a smoker who will encourage someone to start smoking.
No.
I think it's very, very universally known how bad it is. And when you get to a certain point, it's the addiction. I didn't get too bad. I mean, we're talking like how addicted I was to cigarettes versus some of my other friends who doesn't even come close, right? I had maybe when it was the worst, I had maybe 4 or 5 cigarettes a day. We're talking, there are people who smoke 2 packs a day, right? So that's 40 cigarettes a day, if you don't know how many are in a pack. So I'm not nearly that addicted. But for me, it was an immediate stress outlet. It's very, very immediately gratifying if you're curious. And there is a sort of dopamine hit that you get.
Oh, sure.
And it's, and at a certain point, I run the risk benefit of me smoking at the age of 20. And at a certain point, I said, I was like, okay, I gotta stop doing this for a few reasons. One, I worked actively in an exercise field, right? So it was a little hard to reconcile smoking cigarettes and being in a professional track that is they're basically mutually exclusive. Kind of hard to reconcile those 2 points. That was kind of a big contributor to me stopping. However, if that wasn't my life, I might not have. So it's, once again, not a decision I'm very proud of, but it is part of my life, and it is something that I'd like to think gives me some good experience when dealing with empathy with others who might be struggling in similar situations, right? So even though going forward with cardiac rehab, I'm going to be working, and I have worked when I was an intern with a lot of people who are smokers. It's just, smoking is going to damage your arteries, and it's going to result in either something with the lungs or something with the heart. And
don't I know? I have nothing, and I'm both a heart and a lung patient. Yep.
But having that experience, knowing what it's like to have, a smoke break, which are the best breaks, by the way, bar none. Smoke breaks are the best. It's easier for me to build rapport with those patients, clients, and they tend to be more open with me talking about quitting than somebody who's never even had to try and quit. So
I can appreciate it. I think it's a hell of a sacrifice, though. It's danger. Luckily, you got out of it, but to be clear, I think that is one of the bigger disappointments to our kids if that had happened. I mean, that or alcohol. We don't mind if they drink, but alcoholism, if that were something, right? So an addiction of sorts,
right,
is something. And I say disappointment, not like we shun you, but in the sense of that's what we would hope. Again, going back to options and life being one of them, we would pick that you would hope that you do something that prolonged your life. rather than not limit it. And so in that sense, it goes back to it is we don't want that for you, regardless of what we've done. We don't want that for you, any of our kids, anything negative, whether, yeah, it's equivalent of, getting a D in English at 15 or heroin. Sure, it's the same thing. No,
Yeah.
but I mean, the logic is the same. We don't want bad things for you, right? And we get fanatical about it. That's where you get helicopter parents and other things. We get fanatical about it, but in some sense, but that's where it comes to me is I wouldn't want that kind of risk. So if we're up to me, don't do it. That being said, I think we've pretty much covered it today. I
think we have.
Yeah,
we have covered a lot for sure. I think River has given her 2 cents as well.
Yeah. Pay attention to me.
Yeah. But I think, hopefully going forward, I have some idea of what I want to imprint on my son and, help him avoid the bad consequences. I think
it's going to happen. You're going to come back and say, when he's 13, 14, if it's a guy, he's usually like 16, 17, I'm at a loss. I can't get through to him. And I'm going to be laughing at you. It's like, we're going to play this video. Then we're going to play this one back.
Play this one back.
Right? Play this one back and say, this is what we said. This is what we talked about. And, you can't control certain things that you need to control.
Right.
They're not going to let you control that. Now, you got to choose wisely as to that what they don't let you control might be things that you don't care about. That's great.
Right.
But some things are going to be really important, and you navigate that. Basically, you just sit with your spouse or at least the parent and the spouse. You look at them and thinking, yeah, I don't know what to do. It's like, I guess the best thing to do is nothing, because if we push it, it's going to get worse. That's what we do. Yeah, it's you're gonna need this one when he turns about.
Well, yeah, we'll save this one for a later day.
Yeah, you definitely are gonna do that. So very good. I appreciate it, Ryan. So,
yeah, thanks, Dad.